Hello, Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce members. This is Drew Kamp, President and CEO of the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce, here for your April 2nd, which is crazy to think we're already through the first quarter of 2021, but we currently are, and we're getting closer to the to the end of the legislative session as well. But we're here for our April 2nd weekly legislative update video. The first thing I wanted to touch on is the second funnel. So today is the second funnel for this year's legislative session. What that means is that bills that have been passed out of the Senate or out of the House, respectively, have to be passed out of the appropriate committees in the opposite chamber. There are some exceptions to that, and they include things like Ways and Means bills, appropriations bills, leadership bills. Those kinds of bills do have the right to kind of just they're funnel proof. So they don't ever really go away or they never die, so to speak, in one of the funnels. So there are quite a few of those, and most of our priority bills fall into that category. So we will see those all the way through the end of the session at being eligible. But a few topics I wanted to make sure I touched on. The first one is TIF. We continue to not see that appear on the House debate calendar, which is a good thing. We obviously are doing some work behind the scenes and some grassroots movements to really make sure we're educating legislators on the negative impacts that interfering or changing TIF in the way that they're proposing and ratcheting down perpetual TIFs and the increment and all the different amount of valuation that would be then taken away from those districts. That's something that we are very much concerned about and that we're against. We have been vocally since the bill came out. We continue to work against that bill to try to make sure it does not move forward and does not appear on the House debate calendar for the remainder of session. And we will continue to do that as it's really, really important as a local economic development tool. The next item that we've also seen not a lot of movement on, which is a very good thing, is the tech censorship bill. That's something we've very much been concerned about. It did pass the Senate, but right now the House, knock on wood, has currently not really been doing very much with it. And that's something we're happy to see because it really did send the wrong signal, whether you look at the Senate version that had some clawbacks to state and local incentives to tech companies who were deemed to have censored someone's speech, or the House version that would fine them if they were found to be guilty, so to speak, of the same thing. We've been against both adamantly. Any bill that's come out about them, we've, in the regard of tech censorship, we've been against. We're one of the few business organizations that have done that, but we thought it was really important that we did take that stand, with Google being right here in our backyard, their biggest global data center. They've invested over $2.5 billion in the community. They've invested over $2 million in local projects and work really great with both public, private, and nonprofit here in the community to really make sure we're growing and seeing the community betterment initiatives move forward that we would really like. Say, for example, Blink is one that would be a very common one that everyone would know about. So we have stood against those bills, and we're happy to see not very much movement on that in the House. Another item I wanted to make sure I touched on is medical malpractice. It's extremely important to both of our hospitals here in town and our medical providers, because we don't have a non-economic damages cap like other states, say Nebraska, right across the river. This bill that's being proposed in the state legislature would be a cap at $1 million for non-economic damages. Many states have it even lower than that. We're happy to just see a number be put out there because it's something that's a big detractor when you especially look at specialists that may be concerned about that malpractice cap. And it has a really big impact on the ability to attract and retain workforce for our healthcare providers. So it's something that we have been in favor of since it came out. We continue to try to get additional support in the House. The Senate has the support. It's the House that's really sitting there and has a few votes short. So we're really trying to work and see if that's something we can move forward. It's an uphill battle at this time, obviously, with it being a month out and the budget really starting to take full focus after the second funnel in the REC a few weeks ago. But it's something we will inevitably continue to work on because it's a really important bill, especially for communities like ours who are on the border and competing with states just across the river or just nearby. Another item I wanted to touch on is Senator Dawson's major mental health funding bill. We continue to see that move forward. We do know that the Senate obviously has the appetite for it. They're moving it forward. There has been conversations about how it needs to be changed and updated, but we do know that the House, I think, has a few other ideas as to how it should be done. So it will be interesting to see in the last month of session with the targeted adjournment date of April 30th as to maybe how they come together. There has been a little bit of lacking of consensus, we'll say, among the two chambers. So hopefully they can come together and find some good solid ground to move forward on some of those pieces that we are in favor of. And what those pieces would be are the mental health funding. That's what's complicated about this bill. There's pieces we're very much in favor of, like the mental health funding, the tax triggers, things along those lines. Then there's also some pieces that give us major reasons for cause for concern, such as the repeal of the property tax backfill, which would be anywhere from $3 to $4 million. I believe it's about $1 million for the school district, $2 million for the city, and probably between 500,000 to $1 million for the county. So it's very, very significant when you look at that property tax revenue that would then have to be shuffled to other sources. And that's something that we're very much concerned about. And we've stood with our partners at the city, the county, and the school districts with the property tax backfill for years since it was implemented in 2013. And we'll continue to do that. But we really do have to look at this bill as a whole and see how can we try to accomplish some of the good things within it without doing some of the bad things like the property tax backfill. The next piece I wanted to touch on is childcare. We continue to see some things move forward. The House has done a great job and passed 8 bills. We commend them for that very much so and thank them because it's such an important issue, as we know, here in this community. But the Senate, it's really kind of stalled a little bit in the Senate. We have seen Senator Edler take up some bills in his committee, including the child care cliff. We do anticipate some of those moving forward. We do need to continue to push them and educate them. They've really been focused on some of these big tax issues. So we need to make sure that they also know that they need to focus on some of these child care issues, which are really, really important, as anyone who participated in our child care call this week knows. So we'll continue to try to push a lot of those bills forward. We anticipate all 8 possibly going through the Senate, but we do hope that we can pull the good things out and really move forward on some of those positive things like tax credits for developers, and also just doubling of the child care tax credit, obviously the child care cliff. There's some other pieces that we really think would be really important to move forward, and we'll continue to push that in the Senate. There's also flood mitigation efforts. It kind of came out of Muscatine, so on the other side of the state on the Mississippi. But what it would do is give counties the same abilities as cities to really kind of act as flood mitigators. And that would be something that's really important, we think, to have additional resources at our disposal as we look at potential floods, like we've seen many in just the last 10 years, several in the last 10 years. So the more resources we can bring to bear, the better. The last item that I wanted to make sure I touched on is broadband. We continue to see positive movements on both the policy side with the 100 up, 100 down as part of manufacturing 4.0, but also the appropriations. It seems like the House is looking at about $100 million appropriation. The Senate is looking possibly a little bit lower than that, we think, but it'll be interesting to see as to how they come to terms between the two of them with their budget targets, because that's obviously a big priority of ours, but also a priority of the governor's, their Empower Rural Iowa initiative. It's just very important as we look at other items like remote work, when we were doing remote schooling, having that option and those needs to meet the demands there, but also telehealth. Telehealth is a really big topic as you talk to our healthcare providers, and we need adequate broadband and speeds and access to be able to do that. So those are items that we really continue to watch, and we anticipate watching very closely as we move towards the last 4 weeks of session. So with that, I will conclude my legislative report for the week of April 2nd. We do look forward to coming back and talking more next week. We know there's going to be continued developments as they look at the budget targets, and hopefully we start seeing some things come together between the Senate and the House. With that, I will close out. If you do celebrate Easter, I hope you and your family do have a very nice Easter weekend. If not, enjoy the beautiful weather. It is supposed to be very, very nice outside. But as always, thank you very much for your support of the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce and everything you do for the betterment of our community. Have a nice weekend.